It's early morning and I'm outside because we have an issue with one of the Pekins. Jackie noticed there was a bunch of blood in the duck and chicken yard. And upon closer inspection, one of our Pekins has a pretty severely prolapsed vent. I'll show that to you now. Just be aware this is kind of graphic. So if you don't want to see this sort of thing, skip ahead. I'll leave a time marker in the video. It's bleeding pretty good and it looks like there's 2 eggs stuck in there. So normally I'd want to try to fix this, but she's stumbling around. This doesn't look very treatable. Sometimes you can treat it, but this is not. So first thing in the morning, day off, I'm gonna get a kill cone out and I'm gonna call this duck, and it looks like we're gonna have Pekin duck for supper tonight or tomorrow. This is not normally where I would process birds, but it's one and it's quick and it's away from the coop, so it's going to keep any blood that gets on the ground or the tree away, so no predators will be drawn in. It'll do for something like this. This doesn't ever get easy. This particular duck, she didn't have a name, but we thank her for the eggs that she's given us so far and for the meat that she's gonna provide our family with her death. Thank you very much for everything. I apologize for getting broken up there. I know I shouldn't apologize. You know, there's going to be people out there that are like, oh, you're farming. You know, what are you doing? Like, why are you getting broken up? It's just killing a duck. And, you know, they're right to an extent. We processed over 50 birds last fall right here on the farm. I've processed ducks. I've processed chickens. I've processed geese. You know, I've harvested pigs. I mean, we did 6 pigs here last fall. We did 3 pigs the year before. But there's something about it when you're ending an animal's life and it wasn't predetermined. It was you woke up and there's something wrong with an animal, and you know, that animal didn't have a say in what was going on. It didn't know. You know, this duck didn't know that it had a prolapsed vent, and you know, it was not going to get better regardless of what we did. It wasn't even really something where, you know, a surgery could have fixed anything, or you know, if we wanted to pour thousands of dollars into this duck as an egg layer, you know, one, it doesn't make financial sense. You're never going to get that money back. But two, but the second half of that is that medicine wouldn't have helped. There's just nothing that could have been done. So it's an untimely end for the animal, and you know, it's nobody's fault. It's not my fault. It's not the duck's fault. It's just a sad thing that happens. And this is not even an animal that was destined to be an egg layer. This was an animal that I had helped a friend process a bunch of Pekin ducks one day, and he had a bunch more that we didn't get to. And at the end of the day, he's like, I don't even want to bother with these things. Ducks are harder to process than chickens. They take more time. They're harder to pluck. So he had just said, take a couple of these Pekins if you want. So I grabbed a few females, brought them home, and figured, we'll get eggs out of them instead. If we're going to have these Pekins around, we'll get Pekin eggs. This is not an uncommon thing for Pekin ducks. If you're a new duck owner or you're thinking about getting ducks, keep in mind that Pekin ducks were bred for meat production. They're not bred for egg layers. They're not as bad as an egg layer as a Cornish cross chicken would be. A Pekin duck can live a longer life than a Cornish cross would as a chicken. Pekins will not just typically randomly keel over and die. Something will go wrong with them. In the same breath, though, something will go wrong with them because they're not made to be long-term layers. They're not made to be great layers. They are just ducks that can lay but grow a lot bigger than other duck breeds. So if you're in the feed store this spring and you're looking at ducks and you see pretty little ducklings and somebody tells you, oh, they're Pekins, or look up what a Pekin duckling looks like and remember it when you go into the feed store. If they are Pekins there and you're not looking for a meat bird, a meat duck, I would probably pass. I know Morgan up at Goldshaw Farm recently had to cull Samson puddle duck. And in the past, he's had health issues with some of his other Pekins as well, which has led him to not want to raise Pekin ducks anymore on his farm. And I have to agree with that. We had these two Pekins. They ended up on our farm. And, we gave them the best life we could. But if I had an option going forward, I don't think I would bring more Pekins onto the farm unless it was specifically for meat, because as an egg layer and just as like a general all-around duck to have, they're cool. They're white ducks with orange bills. They're kind of your quintessential puddle duck, but they're just not long-term hardy. So it sucks. I'm bummed out, but in the same breath, I've moved beyond sad jack into meat processing jack, and in the kill cone over there, I now see a meal or possibly more. It's a big duck for my family. So let's get set up and process this duck. So I've got my duck here. I have rinsed her off a little bit so she's clean. And I'm going to try dry plucking her, which is a method where you don't use a plucker like you would a chicken. You don't dunk and scald. You literally just grab feathers and rip like that. I don't know how well this is going to go. I've never dry plucked a duck before. Typically, this is something that hunters will do with ducks that they've shot in the wild. So let's see how it goes. So I've got most of the feathers off the breast of this bird. That's what we're going to use out of her. Without firing up the plucker, it's going to be a really labor-intensive job to get the rest of the meat off. I might skin out the rear quarters, which will be the thigh and the legs, and we'll eat those just as they are without the skin. But the breast, I want to keep the skin on because that's where the best fat is on this bird. So I'm going to go give it a rinse, and we'll be right back. So now, rather than gut this bird, I'm just going to breast it out like this. I'm going to come down to the bottom of the breastbone. You can feel the keel bone all the way across. It's not as pronounced as on a chicken, but I'm going to come down to the bottom of it. I'm going to head in there. I'm just going to score along that bone. Pull the skin apart. And you're just going to follow that bone up There's one. Got a little bit of cleanup work to do on that one. What's really weird about this is the human survival instinct that kicks in on this sort of thing with regard to knowing what's safe to eat and what's not. We had a chicken last week that we didn't know what was wrong with her, and I treated it as best we could. We thought she might have been egg bound, but I couldn't find an egg. And eventually that chicken ended up passing. And instinctively I knew not to eat that chicken. But with this duck, it wasn't even a question. I knew as soon as I saw what was wrong that we could process her and eat her instead of being worried that maybe there was something wrong with the meat, like a disease inside. There was a physical injury to the bird, not a potential pathogen. That's where I'm going to end the filming for today. I am going to process the rest of this duck. I'm going to take the liver. I'm going to take the rear legs and thighs. We'll cook those down slow. But I'm not going to show that to you on camera. I did have to switch to my phone at some point, which you're seeing right now, because the batteries in my main camera died. I wasn't planning on filming today. This was just kind of an impromptu, I woke up, this is what I found, and this is what I'm doing today type of video. So luckily I had the day off. It wasn't a day that I was going to be scheduled to go into work. Otherwise, it would have been trickier on the timing schedule. Obviously, I would have had to take care of the duck and cull it and not put that off because I didn't want to prolong any suffering. But it would have been a whole lot trickier as far as timing goes. So it worked out in that it happened on a day where the timing was as good as it could have gotten. Thank you everybody for watching the channel. I promise in future videos we'll go back to a little bit more happy content, a little bit more fun to watch content. Hopefully, this was educational. If you have a duck on your homestead or small farm and you need to cull it, know that you can dry pluck it. You can dry pluck breasts of these birds pretty easily, and you don't have to get sucked into skinning the bird, because that duck fat on there is really good. You don't want to get rid of that. We got some tractor content coming up in the near future that we'll be putting out there. We're still tapping maples around here. I've got to go collect sap after this, and we'll probably have 1 or 2 more boils left for that whole maple thing. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.